Happy Monday, everyone! It's getting closer to spring every day here in southern Indiana. The maple sap is flowing, sugar season is in full swing, and the bald eagles are doing their spring nest preparations behind the podcast studio here on the Patoka River. If you're listening to this on or near the published date, I hope you're also seeing signs of spring. I'm Annie Rind, and this is the 1001 Business Problem Solved with Microsoft Teams podcast. Today, I'm going to tell you how to spot rapid improvement opportunities with a technique Arnie practiced in his corporate days. I'm going to take 2 episodes to go over the subject, so be sure to tune in next week as well. Now, I covered this subject very quickly at some point during the low-hanging fruit series a few weeks ago, but this technique is so loaded with potential that I want to call it out in a special series of its own so I can explain it further. That technique is conducting work habit audits. What is a work habit audit? First of all, this is a practice Arnie came up with on his own. It may not be unique to us because there may be others out there who have stumbled upon this idea. Regardless, it doesn't matter who thought of it first. It just matters that it's golden and it's guaranteed to work for you. Nothing reveals improvement opportunities more quickly than a work habit audit. Here's the idea. Someone sits with a knowledge worker, watching over his or her shoulder while they work and watches 2 general types of work. Those 2 types of work are personal computing and workgroup computing. Personal computing involves things an employee does on his or her own. Workgroup computing includes interactions with others and management of workgroup information. Now, that's really vague, but I'll get into the nitty-gritty later. Let me give you a word of caution before you start scheduling audits, however. You've got to be very careful when you tell employees you're going to conduct work habit audits. Most employees will get nervous when you tell them you're going to conduct an audit of their work habits. That's a normal reaction. After all, who wouldn't get nervous when their work practices are going to be examined? You can explain the idea any way you think your local culture and personalities dictate, but most employees can be convinced an audit is a good idea if you tell them it is to make them more efficient, that it will reduce the busy work they don't enjoy doing anyway, and that it will free them up to do more important work that is likely more enjoyable. Make sure they understand it is not a way to criticize their work or abilities, and that the result will make their lives better. They must understand that the audit is not a backdoor way to criticize them or hammer them on their performance review. You might even tell them that the results will not be reported to the boss unless it's a workgroup inefficiency. We've found that employees are almost always tickled with the improvements that occur due to audit findings. They can't help but notice their jobs become so much smoother and less frustrating. Next, it matters greatly who conducts the audits. The person conducting the audits should be more proficient at computing than the person to be audited. Well, thanks, Captain Obvious. Of course that's the case. But it's best if the auditor is your best computing employee. Your goal could be to get everyone in the office up to the proficiency level of your best employee. Wouldn't that be great? It's even more optimal if the auditing employee is well-versed in Teams and Microsoft 365 because most of the workgroup-related inefficiencies are best improved with the collaborative functionality of Teams. I'll cover that in great detail next week. So, to summarize today's episode, there are 3 main takeaways. First, reassure your employees who will be audited that the audits are meant to help them improve and are not at all to judge their work or effectiveness. Secondly, choose your work habit auditor carefully. You should choose your best computing and most efficient employee to conduct the audits. And thirdly, your audit will be much more effective if the auditing employee is proficient with Teams and Microsoft 365. Next week, I'll give you step-by-step instructions for how to conduct the audits and tell you how to get all the possible improvements even if you don't have someone who is proficient at Teams and Microsoft 365. How's that for a cliffhanger? I hate to make you wait a week for that information, but you know how we like to make these episodes bite-sized and keep them to 6 minutes or less. And with that, I'm going to sign off and work on next week's episode. This is Annie wishing you a prosperous work week, and I'm looking so forward to next week.